Atlético Nacional and Deportivo Independiente, both in Medellin, Millonarios in Bogota, and America de Cali in Cali. And if you look at the 80s in particular, you can just see, if you look at who won the main competitions in Colombia, it went from being a mixture of a few other sides and a few different winners prior to that, to really it suddenly became those guys slugging it out. And America de Cali went on an incredible run of winning the Colombian League Championship, as it were, several years in a row. I think 5 or maybe even 6 years in a row they won it. But they never managed to win the Copa Libertadores, and they kept trying and kept coming very, very close to winning that competition. And in the end, it was Pablo and Atlético Nacional who were finally able to crack that competition. So I think that was probably it was such a symbolic victory for Pablo over his rivals in Cali. I think that his football team was the one that brought glory to Colombia.
The brought glory, well, he brought glory to Atletico Nacional, especially the league titles initially. But wasn't there rumours of, say, certain threats made against referees or officials, and that could have had as much as a helping hand?
Absolutely. It wasn't just, money and resources that he brought to these sites. And I think perhaps this was unique, maybe not entirely unique, but certainly the suggestion from some around the Cali cartel was that they were prepared to launder their money through these clubs and possibly even invest and kind of enjoy their success when they got it. But they kind of drew the line at doing anything too nefarious for footballing purposes. And that was very much their MO, the Cali cartel. They like to fly under the radar. They like to, keep things quiet and just make as much money as they could through their cocaine empire. Whereas Pablo was big and loud and brash and angry and all kinds of other things that brought attention. And there are definitely multiple recorded instances of him having his men intimidate officials, threaten officials, bribe officials, and ultimately, assassinate a referee after a decision went against one of his sides that he didn't like. And like I say, particularly around the 1989 period, that seems to have been rife, and it seems to have been a big part of the Copa Libertadores campaign as well, often orchestrated by his kind of right-hand man, his top sicario, Popeye, and showing Pablo's classic sort of bargaining technique, which was known as plata o plomo, which means silver or lead, effectively money or bullets, take the bribe or die, effectively. And on a lot of occasions, people understandably would take the bribe, and that included officials and referees and other people associated with the game.
Yeah, I mean, with Atletico Nacional, obviously, like I said, they were the first club besides winning a couple of Libertadores. How many attempts had they had before finally winning it?
Off the top of my head, that's a very good question. They'd had a few, and the Colombian sides. In general, the Colombian sides had not done that well in the Copa Libertadores. I mean, the way the competition was set up meant, that there often almost always were Colombian sides in the competition, but traditionally they'd not done well. They'd never won it. I think between them they got to a couple of finals, and then America de Cali went on a run and got very close a couple of times. But Atletico Nacional, certainly before Pablo, weren't really on the radar. I don't think the competition was basically dominated by Argentinian, Brazilian, and Uruguayan teams, effectively, and most of the other club sides from the other countries were sort of also Rans most of the time, I think.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, I've heard of a couple of Libertadores before for many years, but isn't there like another continental competition below that, like their equivalent of the Europa League? Is it the Copa Sud?
Yeah, is it the Copa Sudamericana? I think. Yeah. So there's a kind of Europa League equivalent, and in my book that becomes a small part of the story later on, when there's a tragic plane crash that leads to championship game, that final game, having to be cancelled, and one of the Colombian sides dedicating and giving that cup to their rivals who perished in the plane crash. So yeah, there's a kind of second tier tournament